rain fell over the sleeping city like whispered secrets, each droplet catching the dim orange glow of the streetlights before shattering against the cracked pavement. In that soft symphony of silence and storm, a shadow moved, slow, deliberate, invisible. The man beneath the hood walked without sound, his steps trained by years of erasing noise. He had no name that the world knew, no record, no past that could be traced. But tonight, he had a purpose. And that purpose was death. Ethan Cole once wore a badge. A detective. Homicide. He had believed in justice, in truth, in the idea that the system worked if you worked hard enough for it. But that belief had died 2 years ago, the night his wife and daughter were murdered in their own home while he was chasing ghosts across town. The killer was caught, or so the report said. But the evidence was messy, the case was rushed, and the man walked free. That night, something in Ethan broke. The part of him that believed in the law was buried beside his family. What remained was a man learning to kill in silence. For months, he trained himself to disappear. He studied the ways of killers he once hunted, their patience, their precision, their ability to strike without leaving a trace. He moved through the world like smoke, never staying long enough to be remembered. Then one by one, those responsible for his family's death began to vanish. Each target died quietly, their bodies discovered with no sign of struggle, no sound to warn them. Just one clean shot through the heart or a cut, so precise it felt surgical. The press called him the silent kill. The police called it a serial spree. Ethan called it justice. But tonight wasn't about revenge. Tonight was about ending it. The last name on his list, Victor Hale, a businessman, philanthropist on paper, but a trafficker and murderer beneath the surface. It was Hale who had ordered the hit on Ethan's wife when she refused to sell their small property. A piece of land sitting atop an old smuggling route. Hale wanted it buried. When she resisted, he buried her instead. Ethan watched the mansion from across the rain-soaked hill, a black silhouette against a bruised sky. Hale's guards patrolled the grounds in pairs, flashlights cutting through the mist. Ethan waited, counting their movements, measuring the rhythm of their steps. In his earpiece, static hummed softly. No one was on the other end. He kept it for comfort, a ghost of his old life as a detective when he still had partners to call. Midnight. The guard rotation shifted. Ethan moved. He slipped down the hill, each step merging with the rain's percussion. The fence was electrified, but he'd already cut power from a junction box 2 blocks away. He scaled it easily, landing on soft mud with barely a whisper. His gloves left no prints. His breath was steady, eyes sharp. He crept through the garden, past marble statues that stared blindly into the dark. The mansion loomed larger now, its windows glowing faintly like eyes watching him approach. Inside, Victor Hale poured himself a glass of aged whiskey. He looked calm, too calm, as if expecting something. On the table beside him sat a pistol and a photograph, Ethan's family. Their faces were smiling, frozen in time. Hale ran a finger along the frame and smirked. "You've been busy, Detective Cole," he murmured, his voice smooth as silk. "But I've been waiting." Ethan entered through the side door, bypassing the alarm system he'd studied for weeks. The silence was heavy, the kind that made every heartbeat sound too loud. He moved like a ghost through the hallways, guided by memory and instinct. His knife rested against his wrist, small but sharp enough to slice air. He reached the study door and paused. Inside, a faint creak of leather. The sound of Hale leaning back in his chair. Ethan opened the door. Hale didn't flinch. "Took you long enough," he said, swirling his drink. "You could have come through the front gate." Ethan stepped forward, eyes cold. "You killed them." "I ordered it," Hale corrected. "You were supposed to die too. But fate, it seems, has a sense of humor." Ethan said nothing. His silence was his weapon. Hale smirked. "You think killing me will bring them back? You think silence will save your soul? You've already become the thing you hunted." "I'm not like you," Ethan whispered. "Really? How many have you killed now? 8? 10? Tell me, detective, does it still feel like justice?" Ethan's hand tightened on the knife. For a moment, the rain outside seemed to stop, the entire world holding its breath. Then Hale's voice softened, dangerous. "You were always predictable. That's why I knew you'd come. And that's why you'll die here." Suddenly, the lights went out. Ethan ducked instinctively as bullets shredded the space where he'd stood. He rolled behind the desk, glass exploding around him. Hale was shouting, his voice echoing. Kill him. 3 men in tactical gear stormed the room, flashlights sweeping across the chaos. Ethan moved faster than thought, knife flashing, 1 guard down, gun lifted from his falling body. 2 more shots, 2 more bodies. Silence again. Hale was gone. Ethan rose, scanning the dark. A door to the back hallway swung open. He followed, every sense sharpened. The mansion's corridors twisted like a maze, lined with portraits of dead men who looked too much like Hale. At the end, a metal door locked. Ethan fired the handle off and stepped inside. The basement was cold. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering weakly. And there, in the center, Victor Hale stood beside a steel cage. Inside it, a girl. She couldn't have been more than 15, pale, trembling. Ethan froze. Hale's voice echoed softly. You see, detective, the world isn't clean. You think killing me ends the rot? Look around. I built this empire on the silence of people like you. Ethan aimed his gun. Let her go. You won't shoot, Hale said calmly. Because deep down, you still think there's a line you won't cross. Ethan's hands didn't shake. You crossed it for both of us. He pulled the trigger. The shot echoed like thunder. Hale stumbled, disbelief painting his face, then collapsed. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and silent. The girl whimpered, but Ethan moved quickly, breaking the cage lock with his knife. She flinched away at first, terrified, but his voice softened. It's over. You're safe now. He led her upstairs, through the rain, through the gates, through the night. When the sirens began to wail in the distance, he didn't run. He sat on the curb, soaked and silent, as the girl clung to his arm. Police lights painted the rain red and blue. A familiar voice broke through the static of his earpiece. Captain Morgan, his old chief. Ethan, what have you done? Ethan looked at the flashing lights, at the bodies being covered, at the mansion burning behind him. He didn't answer. For the first time in years, he felt something close to peace. I finished it, he said quietly. They took him in without resistance. The headlines the next morning screamed of a vigilante ex-cop who dismantled a trafficking ring single-handedly, a killer who killed killers. Public opinion was divided. Some called him a monster, others a hero. But Ethan didn't read the news. He sat in a small cell, the rain still echoing in his memory. Weeks later, the girl he saved visited him. Her name was Lila. She looked healthier, stronger. She thanked him, tears in her eyes. They said you'll never get out, she whispered. But you saved me. Ethan smiled faintly. That's enough. Before leaving, she handed him a folded note. Inside were 3 words written in shaky handwriting. Silence can save. Years passed. The legend of the silent kill grew, whispered by criminals, studied by detectives, feared by men like Victor Hale. Some said he was still out there, punishing the wicked. His silence, now eternal. Others said he died in prison, his story buried with him. But on stormy nights, when thunder rolled over the city and the rain whispered against the windows, people swore they could hear a soft voice in the dark, a voice that said nothing, but promised justice in silence. Because some wars aren't fought with noise. Some end with a silent kill.